Hello tankers and tankettes, welcome to the patch 9.10 mods video, and there have been some pretty big changes this time round because, as you're probably aware, Locastan has announced his retirement from making mods and just World of Tanks generally. Kodos also seems to have basically stopped maintaining his mods also, so that's a big chunk of the mods I was using that aren't being kind of updated or maintained anymore. So what I've done is I've put together some bits using Anfield's installer, and I tried the Odin Mortis installer as well, which basically gives you a big list of options to choose from of various mods and setups. And then I have tweaked that further to suit my own purposes because there were some of the things that I wasn't particularly happy with, mostly the kind of the color coding of various things. So it's using an XVM setup for all this, but as ever I'm not actually using any of the XVM stat stuff, so you don't have to go and enable XVM or anything like that. It does still have Locastan's session stats, and I don't know if it's still working with 9.10 or if Anfield or somebody else has taken over maintaining that, but that is basically the same setup that we've always had. And the only real new thing on the garage side is that we have these percentage indicators on the actual garage rows. You might be wondering what those are. Well, in line with the mastery marks, and it's quite nice to know at a glance if you've got a mastery mark on your mastery on your vehicle or not. These also tell you the status of your marks of excellence. That's why I was saying marks. I probably gave the game away slightly there what it was, but hey, it's not like it's a great mystery that I've just massively spoiled. So you can see on a lot of my machines, yeah, some of them I have one mark of mastery on, but mark of excellence rather. But others I just don't play tanks, you know, individual tanks enough over and over again, basically. So a lot of them are very, very low percentages indeed. But I thought it might be useful for a lot of people to just be able to see that at a glance. And if I don't know, if people really don't like that in the garage, I can probably find a way to do a separate it'll be in the carousel file somewhere. I can probably edit the carousel file and remove that and present that as an alternative option. But yeah, let me know in the comments below if that particularly bugs you. If not, I think it's quite a useful little addition. So we'll actually jump into battle, and I can show you the rest of the mods that are installed. And I've chosen a not particularly good tank to do it in. You know, the T-34-85M is one of the less good medium premiums in this game, particularly since they then went and sold the Rudy, which was just better than this in every way, pretty much. The gimmick of the 3485M is that it is, well, it's like the Type 50A. It's got that 144 pen gun, but can see tier 8s, which is not so good. But it has slightly more frontal armor, and the frontal armor is okay when you are top tier, but for, you know, tier 7 and 8 games, the extra armor does not matter really at all. So yeah, it's kind of like the T-54 first prototype, but the fact that they then put the Rudy out, which is, in theory, got this exact gun, but has the penetration of the top gun of the T-34-85, well, that was just a bit of a smack in the face to anyone that had bought this. So the ears, as it were, the panels are basically the same. I did experiment with an option that basically adds a lot of the EU clan tags, but I found it to be a bit extraneous. I also experimented with the Server Cross 2 reticle, so that gives you basically two reticles, one with the client side, which would be the kind of the default Jimbo's look, and then a server reticle overlaid on top of that. But frankly, I didn't like that. I found that too much information because I normally just play with the server reticle anyway. And the fact that it's then, you know, 100% more reticles on the screen just was not much use to me. So I disabled that option. I didn't like that. What's this Stuart doing? So that is some of the stuff that I was kind of experimenting with and was ultimately not very happy with. So I removed that. But the biggest change that we will hopefully see, if I manage to get some damage at some point, if this gun will behave itself, no, okay, is the damage panel on Hitlog. And I went with, I think it's Sea Falcon. And I've been aware of his previously, you know, I've looked it up previously, but I didn't particularly like the style. And what I've done is I've actually tweaked it quite extensively in terms of the colouring. So if and when I finally do some damage, you'll be able to see that, hopefully, but this is taking a little time because the gun on this is not particularly good. Oh, god damn it, why did you have to turn away at the last second, you sneaky scout person, you? Nope. This gun is really, it's not good. I mean, the Type 58 was pretty frustrating as well. I'm just going to have to charge in against these guys, aren't I? Screw it. Let's put this armour to use. This excellent OP armor that I've got, it's so good. So yeah, I mean the positioning is basically kind of the default positioning, but I extensively changed the colors, and there was also a kind of a reload counter thing which I removed, which I didn't particularly like. Oh come on! And yeah, so that was not particularly impressive. But the colors I've changed, so it looks much nicer. I hopefully have done it so that it differentiates enough, and there's also a kind of a coding with the shots that you take, so that particular, you know, that means that bounced, and ooh, as you can see that didn't bounce, and it tells you what shell it was, and there's a little tick mark to say, well, you've killed that person. Okay, well, if I go up there I'm just going to get shot by a Stug, aren't I? Well, this team's doing well. One thing on the player panel that is actually new that I can't figure out how to remove, in theory I have removed it, but it just pops up anyway, is these spotted tank markers. So, yeah, I don't know, I don't think that's too much extraneous information. Hopefully it's not too distracting or anything. Oh, hello, Valentine. So there's that. One big change with what I have done with this particular damage log, and the reason I decided to try out this one is because it doesn't tell you what tank that's shot at you. You do get to see whether or not they're spotted or not, if they're shooting at you, but it doesn't explicitly say, you know, this tank, even though it's not spotted, although it's invisible on the minimap or whatever. You can't see, you can see exactly, you know, magically somehow that this person's shooting at you. Oh, that's my ammo rack. Now, you can see how much my extra armor's worth even when I'm top tier. I'm bouncing some shots, but not a huge number. So, a bit of angling, yeah, but it's not particularly good tank, this. So hopefully with the colours I've chosen, I've managed to differentiate it enough that it makes sufficient distance. I know what I mean. Yeah, this team just collapsed like a wet paper bag. Hopefully it is clear enough at a glance, because the default colours, it was kind of like a horrible green and a horrible red, and it was just ugh. So I've changed it so you can kind of, I mean, these are the relevant figures here, like your blocked damage, and you can kind of see a list of what's shot you, and more importantly, the kind of ammo that they shot you with. And that's always the main thing I've wanted in a hit log like that, is what kind of ammo is being shot at you. And you can see distinctly there, you know, it will still tell you the difference between regular APCR and premium APCR, for instance, and that's quite useful to know if someone's spamming a lot of premium ammo at you. Heat you can tell just from the sound, but APCR not necessarily. And then with the more kind of yellow figures, you can see at a glance the total that you've done, and then what you've done it against, and whether you killed them or not. So it's not quite the same layout, but I'm thinking it seems to work all right. The minimap as well, which I haven't really touched on yet, that's just the kind of the XVM minimap with a couple of tweaks to suit me. So it just has a kind of a dynamic view range box to well, spotting range box, so you can see how much spotting range you've got. It also has the render range box and a kind of a view direction indicator as well. So it's not too different from Locastan's. I mean, the main visual difference is in the quality of the mini-maps themselves. But I think somebody else is actually doing now an HD Minimap mod. It's T67. So oh, he got so lucky there. The hand of Stalin didn't quite guide that shell enough. So there we go. It's largely the same. I think the only other thing actually I probably should mention is this little box here, which gives you a platoon damage total, and I don't quite know if that is a thing that only works if you're all within the same render range, or if you if it magically works for wherever you are on the map. But I figured I'd leave that in because there are some of the personal missions where it counts platoon damage as well, so it's quite handy to have that on the screen also. Most of the time it's just going to be something you can ignore. So there we go, that was a fairly terrible battle. Wow, easily first place on damage and XP there. So I want to obviously give a big shout out to Anfield for putting that mods installer together, because it made doing this so much easier, because in the end there's only about a half dozen files I actually had to go and tweak things in, and mostly it was HTML color codes and one or two other things. But if I'd had to do it from scratch, it would have been a little bit more time consuming to get everything how I wanted it. So yeah, absolutely go and... I don't know if it has an official Tanks forum. He's got his own like forums and own website, but you might have to register there to thank him or whatever. But you know, if you feel the inclination, you can do that. But any questions about individual mods, you could try asking them in the comments below if you've got any problems or whatever. But bear in mind, I know very little about modding. This is just me customizing and tweaking other people's things, so I possibly won't be able to help you, but it may be worth asking all the same. So if you have any other questions or comments, you can put them in below. You can hit the like button. You can subscribe to my channel. And as always, stay tuned for more.